my fishes, Courtney Mermaid here, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be answering that very commonly asked question, am I embarrassed to call myself a mermaid? We're going to dive on into that. You're going to want to grab yourself like a tea. I'm sipping orange juice out of a Heineken mug, so it's all good. We're living on the edge. And let's dive in. So this is a question that I'm asked all the time. Not necessarily like directly, but implied. And I'm sure you've experienced this too. If you're in the mermaid community, you have a mermaid tail, you swim in a mermaid tail. I'm sure on some level somebody has asked you like,
so you're swimming in the mermaid tail still, honey, like you doing that, you're wearing your mermaid tail and oh that's nice, like that's cute.
Love that one. Am I personally embarrassed to swim in my mermaid tail? No. Have I always felt that way? No. When I first started and first was kind of dabbling in the idea of rocking a mermaid tail, it didn't really occur to me to be embarrassed. Then it did occur to me to be embarrassed once I found out there were other people out there who I personally thought were far more attractive than myself out there doing this, who were more athletic or more flexible or more fit, whatever, doing it. Then I was like, oh my gosh, but it wasn't ever really specifically mermaid tail related. I think I've always just kind of thought of myself as somebody who needed to swim in a mermaid tail. I don't know. Can you relate to this? As a younger person, I was never like popular girl. I was never the popular one. I never really had my stuff together. I was never really like in the, fashionable, and I've always been very tall and thin and lanky and a little bit disproportionate, if you will. And so I've never really kind of just like fit into any particular group. And sometimes I still feel like I don't fit into any particular group, but that's like a whole other kettle of fish. I think when it comes to swimming in a mermaid tail, what I find so interesting is that I actually now, especially now, having been through the whole journey of becoming a mermaid and figuring it out and making my own tail and all of this good stuff and where do I fit in the community and whatnot, I actually feel more like myself when I'm being Courtney Mermaid or when I'm swimming in the mermaid tail and doing my mermaid thing than when I'm not, which is a really interesting idea that I've explored in other videos as well. But I was really careful too when I created my sort of mersona of Courtney Mermaid. Like, Courtney's my actual name and I'm a mermaid. I consider myself a mermaid. Like, not like, you always have to qualify because there's always the crazies who are like, oh my god, you're not a mermaid, you're not a mermaid, you're not a mermaid. And it's like, I know that. I mean, philosophically speaking, I'm a mermaid. The bigger picture. Can I breathe underwater? No, I cannot. Am I okay with that? Yes. Yes, I am. Am I aware of that? Yes. Yes, I am. Like, calm down, okay? So when I get these kinds of questions, it's usually from people who are asking like, well, what do I do to not feel embarrassed in my mermaid tail? How do I get over it? And it's something that will click over time. You will eventually, the more that you do it, become more confident in your abilities, and you will just get more comfortable at being in a mermaid tail, and you will feel less embarrassed over time. And I know that's like, well, Courtney, that's not an easy fix, because there is no easy fix to not feeling embarrassed about being a mermaid. And frankly, like when people ask me or hint at it, it's like there is nothing really to be embarrassed about because, and we're gonna get deep for a second here, really deep. Nothing in this world is actually real, okay? If there's one thing that quarantine has taught us, all of this stuff doesn't really mean anything if you aren't around to appreciate and enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, health comes first. So it's taught us all to kind of value things a little bit differently. So if I want to live my life and be a mermaid and swim around in a mermaid tail and call myself a mermaid, what's actually stopping me from doing that? What's actually stopping you from doing that? Is there something that just hasn't quite clicked yet? Because if people come at you and they're like, oh, it's childish, or oh, it's this, that's all just an interpretation. That's all just somebody else's interpretation. Oh my goodness. I could make a video talking about the things I've learned and the things I figured out during quarantine that would just blow the socks off of everybody. Because honestly, life isn't actually what we think it is. And I could get totally philosophical. I'm not going to. This isn't about that. This is about me and whether or not I'm embarrassed. And the answer is no, I'm not embarrassed to be a mermaid because I have over the years developed a sense of style and a sense of self as a mermaid. I don't force myself to wear things or to be a certain way to match what anybody else is doing. If I'm not comfortable in something, I don't do it. I am very aware of what my boundaries are as a mermaid. Those are the kinds of things that will help you get over whether or not you're embarrassed to be a mermaid, because embarrassment can come in so many different ways. You have to ask yourself, what's actually embarrassing you about swimming in a mermaid tail, right? But I do want to just empower you to remember that it's your experience and therefore it's special. Somebody shared just the most like touching little story, and I think I may have actually talked about it on a podcast, and I may have even cried. I cry a lot. Have you noticed? It's just becoming a thing. It was this little girl who had this flower that she was growing in this beautiful little pot, and she really loved it, and then she met some other girls that had these flowers that were sparkling and doing all of these things, and all of a sudden she looked at hers and hers wasn't good enough and hers wasn't special enough and hers just, she didn't want it anymore. She just tossed it aside. The pot broke and it was like tearjerker. It's like Bambi all over again. Can we not? So then she realizes, well, no, this one was so beautiful because it was mine. And I feel like that applies in so many wonderful ways. You know, your experience as a mermaid is beautiful because it's yours, and you can make it whatever you want for it to be. You know, if you're somebody who struggles with boundaries or somebody who struggles with self-image and things like that, there's different things that you can practice to help get yourself out of that cycle. So for me, I'm very, very prone to calling myself all kinds of names and, you know, in regards to my appearance and what I look like. And so I make a real habit to correct myself and be like, no, this, and this isn't true because this, and to actually catch myself and say like, you're actually wrong and you can't talk about yourself like that. You know, my body isn't like other people's bodies, but it's still perfect because it's mine. And that kind of mentality, does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So the next time you're kind of at the pool and you're thinking, okay, well, you know, can I do this? Is that person watching me? How do I feel about this? What am I doing? Maybe take a moment to kind of assess the situation and ask yourself, what's actually embarrassing you about being a mermaid? What actually bothers you? And if it's something that you can change directly in the situation, then change it. And if it's not, actually really assess if it's something you need to be embarrassed about. Because at the end of the day, I could walk down the street in my full mermaid getup and have people give me all kinds of strange looks, but do their opinions actually matter? You know, like in the grand scheme of things, like, yes, maybe if you have an employer and they ask you, please don't show up to work with full mermaid, like scale makeup every single day, you don't know, you work at a bank or something. Maybe that's like a little bit different, but that's not really what we're talking about here. I mean more when you're out and you're doing your full mermaid thing. If people are gonna judge you and people are gonna mock you or people are gonna say something, those are not the people worth worrying about. Those are not the people that you want around. That's the kind of BS that you can just to the curb, you know what I mean? I think it's also because I'm like 30 plus now. And I just don't find that I care as much anymore. Like in my 20s, I definitely cared. In my 20s, I was definitely concerned about what the rest of the world thought. Like if I was sitting on the edge of the pool, I was sucking it in because I'm like, yeah, I don't have any rules. And now I'm kind of like, I have this nice little pouch where I keep all of my organs. Thank you. You've seen that TikTok. Like it's been used everywhere and I freaking love it because it's just so true. But the things that used to bother me just don't really bother me as much anymore. So I think you have that to look forward to with age. It's quite good. But all that being said, I would love to hear from you guys. Have you ever felt embarrassed as a mermaid? Have you ever had a moment where you were like, and what did you do about it? Did you have a talk with yourself, you know, in behind the scenes, and did you say, hey, okay, was this a situation that actually called for this kind of a reaction? What set it off and how did you handle it, and what are some better ways that you could have handled it? And actually kind of think about it. I'd like this to be like a little workbook experience. So comment below with an embarrassing moment or a moment that you felt embarrassed, how you handled it and how you could have handled it. This is your test. I pass this on to you. And I hope you guys take a little something away from this and just know you don't have anything to be embarrassed about. This is not something to be embarrassed about. If you're not hurting people and you are putting good and beauty into the universe, then you don't have anything to be embarrassed about. You do the best that you can, and that's all you can ask, okay? Your mermaid experience is beautiful because it's yours. And I really want you to take that for what it is and just know that I am sending all of the good mermaid vibes to you, and I want to thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join the pod and the bell notification as well so you never miss an upload. And with all that being said, I love you, my fishes, and happy swimming. Bye!